Good Monday morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with the daily technical update. It is the 8th of April. We start with ARM holdings today, 120.16, the upper boundary of the gap area, and the gap comes back here from 12th of February. It closed almost here a few days later, but it didn't. It only spiked down and didn't close. It needs to close below 115.21. That is the key level. If we do close below that, well, then there is a further sell-off potential down to the support and massive gap down here at 94. If it can bounce back above the cloud, back above 130, well, then we could see a push towards 150, possibly higher. But that is really the key levels to look out for. S&P 500 sell-off Thursday, bouncing a little bit back Friday. Pre-market we are unchanged. Key support is 5,057. I think we will test it. We have some really massive divergence here on the RSI, and it's been like that for quite some time. But if we can get back above 5,261, well, then uptrend will resume and the top and reversal pattern will be demolished. Nasdaq 100, we have 17,800. We have talked about this level for quite some time. That is the key support level. We were very close, fairly close last week, but we are still above, and that is the key support. If we does get back above the 18,465, well, then uptrend is resuming. On the European markets, we have EUROSTOXX 50, 4,976, key support, and that should be observed. If we do close above on EUROSTOXX 50, well, then sell-off could be very swift, down to around 4,900, a little bit lower possibly, even maybe down to 4,800, but let's see about that. If it does close this gap, it actually created a Friday, it can get back above 5,100, well, maybe uptrend could resume, but the top and reversal pattern bearish engulfing is still intact and in place. Thanks. Trying to get back above the lower rising trend line here. We are in a correction phase, and I think we will see it towards 17,900 in just a few days. However, RSI no divergence there, indicating we could see higher DAX levels, and that's a little bit contrary to most of the other markets that actually are exhibiting a divergence, meaning imbalance in the market, not really confirming these uptrends we have seen. AX 872 still key support, and this gap level area here that could be tested after this top and reversal pattern there. Finally, on CAC 40, we are trying to CAC 40 is trying to get back above 8,100. If it can do that, then it could potentially try to push back towards the 8,200, but it really needs to close above 8,234 for further upside potential. It seems like we are unfolding a little bit of a correction also there. And SMI, more or less the same picture, really, trying to get back above 11,536. After finding some support here around 11,496, which is actually quite interesting, but we are in a downtrend. We have a lower low, a lower high, so we are in a downtrend that needs to close this gap up here to really demolish that picture. I think we'll see SMI 20 trading around 11,400 in a few days. Moving on to the FX market, where we have the volatile euro dollar. After being rejected just below the 61.8 retracement, trying to push to resume downtrend, but actually buyers came back in. So now we are hovering around the 200 moving average and the 55 moving average. So it's really hard to predict where it's going. But the RSI is indicating us that we will see another push lower. We also have all moving averages actually tilting lower. So we should see a move towards the 107 in coming days and weeks. Also on cable, sterling dollar here, you see moving averages, all of them apart from the 100 are declining, the 200 slightly. So we are in a bearish trend, and also with a negative sentiment there. we should see a push towards 125 in the coming week or so. However, if we do take out the previous peak from the week peak from last week, well, then we could see a push up to 127.58, and that's more or less the same picture on euro dollar. If we take out the last week's peak, well, then we could see a push higher on euro dollar and not lower levels. But I would be a little bit wait and see on those two. I want to see a trend direction. The dollar yen that's been trading sideways here for a few weeks now. Could it have another go at 151.95? That is the key resistance to break. If it can't break that, well, then we're looking 153, possibly even higher. And 150, 80, 84. That is the support here. But let's see. It's tried a couple of times, but it didn't. It couldn't really gather strength to move in that direction. The other yen pairs are also ticking higher. Here we have euro yen ticking against towards the 786 retracement at 164.77. If we do take out last week's peak, well, I'm also fairly confident we will take out the 165, the 165.35 peak here from March. No guarantees though, it's just about possibilities, not about certainties. But then we could see a push towards the 166, 167 level in coming days and weeks. If it's being rejected once again, well, then we could see a sliding back towards the lower rising trend line and 163. Aussie yen also taking a little bit higher, as you can see here. If it can close above 100, well, then I think we'll see a potential move up to 101 in the coming days and weeks. We also have positive RSI, despite having divergence. That's the same picture on all yen pairs, actually. We have divergence, but if it takes out the trend line here, the blue one, well, then I see further upside potential. If it takes out last week's peak, sorry, not peak, the low of this sell-off there at 19, well, then we could see a correction down to around 98.65. Sterling yen also pushing higher, as we can see. If it takes out last week's peak right there at 192.25, which is the 61.8, then we'll see a push towards previous peaks on the sterling yen. Dollar Canada failed to close above 136.25 last week, and it's trying again today to push higher. It really needs to close above here for a push higher towards the 786 retracement at 137.45. For now, we are still range bound. And finally, just have a quick look at dollar Swiss. Dollar Swiss, well, can't really get above $91, and I think that is I think the weekly chart actually shows it very well. It is the 786 retracement, this massive downtrend here, so expect a lot of volatility. There should be a correction down to around 89.50, possibly a little bit lower on dollar Swiss, but Swiss in general is to the weaker side. Finally, the dollar index at trying to push higher after spiking below there to being rejected at the 55 moving average. We have all moving average more or less coming up here, giving some support. We are in a positive sentiment on the RSI. We should see dollar index try to take out the 104.80 and change. And I think we'll see a move higher in coming weeks and coming days. And if we can add a little bit of projection level, well, up here around 105.5, possibly higher, it could be seen. If it takes out last week's low here at 103.68, well, then we are looking at 103.25 level. Moving on to the commodities and silver, gold. Silver will be in a minute. Gold that spiked up to my target at 23.50. I think we will see a top in place either today or tomorrow, and then we'll have a little bit of a correction. I don't think it will be that big, as we can also see here on the weekly chart. No divergence on the RSI. There's a little bit divergence on the daily chart, indicating we could see a bit of correction in a day or two. I think we'll see it topping out and then a correction, but the uptrend is strong. So I think we will see higher levels on gold later, but be careful. A lot of volatility is likely to be seen here on gold. I would be very hesitant to go short. If I was long, I would just keep my longs. If it takes out the around 2265. Then I think we'll see a larger correction down to 2200, but I'm not quite sure we will actually that will actually materialize. I think we will gold will be quite elevated here for quite some time with a really strong underlying bullish bias. Silver potential up to 22.75, even maybe around 30, where we have some really strong resistance here going back quite a bit. From 2020 and 2021. Moving on to cocoa. I think we should have a very quick look at cocoa. Everyone is talking about cocoa, and what we actually got last week was we got a bit of a correction that actually gave us some indications where we could move to next. So we didn't close below the minor support, so now it bounced back, and I think we could see a move higher in coming days. What should be observed is these Fibonacci levels there, 61.8, where we are trading just above. If it takes out the previous peak, well, then we're looking at around 11,000. Below 9,150, expect a larger sell-off. If we're then looking quickly at the WTI and Brent, well, we are still in an uptrend, a little bit of correction, but uptrend towards 90 on the WTI and 93.78 on the Brent crude oil. Finally, as usual, the US 10-year pushing higher, 450 around that level, some resistance there. I'm not quite sure it will hold, but it will be tested. I feel confident it will be tested. We are in a positive sentiment. There's no divergence. We should see higher yields levels in the coming days and weeks. That's all for today. Have a nice day and happy trading.